want to talk to you about the Agile mindset. So, when we talk about this culture of learning and experimentation, one of the main things that fuels a culture of learning and experimentation or not is this notion of mindset. And we're going to start with the work of Carol Dweck, Professor Carol Dweck from Stanford University. She wrote the book called Mindset. Now, in this book, she goes in to describe the difference between what's called a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The fixed mindset is a mindset that people have about different things about themselves. So, personality, intellectual ability, IQ, right? Character, whatever it is. They believe that these things are fixed, meaning that whatever they have, they can't develop it anymore. It's locked down. My potential was determined at birth. Let me give you an example. If you were to ask me, Ahmed, do you know how to sing? And I said, guys, I have a horrible voice. Or if I said, I have a beautiful voice. Both of those answers demonstrate that I have a fixed mindset, right? It means that my belief in my head, this is something deep in my head here, that I believe that I have a good or bad voice. It's not about the development or making it better or worse. It's just good or bad. I was either given a good hand at birth and I have a beautiful voice, or I was given a bad hand at birth and I was given a horrible voice. But I don't believe I can make it better or worse. That's a belief. Okay? The growth mindset, on the other hand, right? If you ask me, can you sing? I'm like, yes, I've been practicing for years. See? I've been practicing for years. Or I've never learned. Can you teach me? Right? Those answers, that way of thinking is indicative that I believe in my head that I can get better or worse at it. Does that make sense? All right. So, fixed mindset, I believe what I have is what I have and I can't do anything about it. Growth mindset is I believe that my intellect, personality, character can be developed continuously. My true potential is unknown and unknowable, right? It's unlimited. Why? Because the more I put effort into something, the more it will grow and become better. That's my mindset. Now, what's important about these two mindsets is the behaviors that come with it. Okay? So let's go back to the singing example, right? Let's say I believe I have a beautiful voice, but I have a fixed mindset belief about that. So that means I'm good, but I know what I'm good at. So I'm not trying to make it better because I don't believe I can make it better. Remember? Okay? So what that does is it drives a desire in me to look good, to show off a little bit, to demonstrate what I have. Sometimes even oversell it, right? Which means I avoid failures. Think about this. If I believe that I can't get better at something, so I want you to know that I'm good at it, as is. So I don't want you to see any glimpse of failure from me. I avoid challenges. I avoid new things. I stick to what I know. I don't like feedback or criticism. Because all those things, when you really think about them, they should drive you to try and get better at something. But I believe I can't get better at it. If I stick to what I know, I avoid failures, I avoid challenges, I do those things over time and I don't take feedback, guess what happens? I don't get better, reinforcing the idea that you can't get better. Now, the growth mindset, on the other hand, says, wait a minute, I know I'm not that good wherever I am on this spectrum, right? So let me put effort and get better. Right? So that leads to a behavior of what? Continuous learning, improvement, taking on challenges, accepting, trying new things and accepting failure, and going out and seeking feedback, asking people, what do you think? Right? How can I get better? Those things, right? So when you think about it, one drives that cycle of growth, the other doesn't. Now, Let me tell you a couple of important things here before we move on. One, you're not born with one of these mindsets. You're not born with one of these mindsets. It's all about conditioning and development. What people around you say as you're growing up. Okay? And so when I first read this book, I was terrified. Everything the book said not to do as you raise children, I was doing. Right? Everything. Like, don't do this, don't say this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing this, I'm saying this. I went to my wife after reading the first couple of chapters. I'm like, oh my God, I think we screwed up kid number one. Let's just focus on number two now, because he was just born, right? So I'm like, let's just, start fresh with him because I think I did everything wrong, because he was my first child. And, like, it was like, oh my God, you're so smart. Look at you. Look at that. And like the book says, don't say you're so smart. Because again, that reinforces you are smart. It's not about the effort you put. You're not praising the effort. You're praising the person. What we should be doing is praising the effort or commenting on the effort and the what they're doing, not who they are, right? So anyway, we didn't screw up kid number one, but I hadn't read the end of the book. I went to my wife right in in the middle of the book. The end of the book actually talks about how to change mindset, right? And one of the most important things they talk about, or she talks about in the book, is number one, acknowledging that there are these different mindsets and noticing when you use words that enforce this mindset or that mindset, right? And so we became very conscious around my elder son to use the right words of, no, just put more effort. Like, there's no quitting, try better. And just funny anecdote, it backfired on me later. A year later, we were like really focused on that. I'll never forget this. One night I came from work. I'm sitting there exhausted. And this little, 5-year-old comes up to me. He's like, Daddy, my toy broke. Fix it. And I look at the toy and it's like plastic and it's like broken. And I'm like, sweetie, I can't fix it. I'm so sorry. And he looks at me. He's like, Daddy, put more effort. Try harder. You said there's no impossible. And I'm like, But anyway, so this is the fixed mindset and growth mindset. And similarly, by the way, just like, this parenting story, companies, you have people coming in with really a great growth mindset. I want to try these things. And it was, the things that we were talking about, like when people start to overpraise them or create an environment where everything is criticized, right? Those are environments that start to change people to this fixed mindset, right? Now, I want to talk about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, not around singing and dancing, but more about how these show up at work and what the agile mindset really is here. Forget about singing and dancing for a second, and let's think about when faced with uncertainty. You are faced with uncertainty at work, right? That's the whole point. There's a lot of things that are changing around us. We're trying new things. We're experimenting with new things. We're trying to develop this culture of learning and experimentation, right? We're trying to figure out what the customer wants, the best way to work, all those kind of things. So when you're faced with uncertainty, you want to reduce risk. That is a normal human behavior. Now, how you reduce risk is really important. So the fixed mindset tries to reduce risk by hanging on, by forcing things to a known state, right? And then freezing those things so that they know how to act upon that. Okay? So they go back to their previous experiences and say, oh, I've done something like this. Let me do that again. Okay? Because it's safe. They know it worked. They're trying to avoid failure. They stick to what they know. See those behaviors? Okay? Now, the growth mindset, or as we call it, the agile mindset, says, I still want to reduce risk. But the way I'm going to reduce risk is by learning quickly. What experiments can I run to learn quickly, fail quickly, and engage others in co-creating something that is going to be what will be successful. Does that make sense? Right? So one is leaning on this idea of, I don't want to look stupid, I don't want to fail, so let me go to a known state and freeze things and like look at my previous experiences and just play from there. The other says, wait a minute, this is a new environment, let me actually learn quickly. Let me talk to other people, let me admit that I don't know, let me run experiments, let me fail early, fail often, etc., etc. That is the manifestation of the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, right? And the agile mindset is essential when we want to start this culture of learning and experimentation. So, in summary, agile is a way of working grounded in a culture of learning. It's a way of working grounded in a culture of learning. Because if you think about it, if I want to learn and experiment, I need to work in a way that allows me to learn and experiment. And then number two, and really important, what I learn, I can incorporate. So listen to me on this point here. If I have a way of working that is so rigid and fixed, even if I learn something new, I can't incorporate that learning. Why? Budgets are fixed, plans are fixed. I have the change process is so hectic that guess what? It's too expensive to incorporate the change that I learned about. Have you ever seen that? Where it's like, I know this is wrong, but everything is already, the train has left the station and just, okay, that's what's going to happen, right? I'm too small in our corporate structure to change anything. But even though I know this is not going to work, right? Why? Because we have ways of working that are too rigid, too structured, right? Now, structure is important, but it has to be flexible. It has to be agile, nimble, lightweight, so that we can incorporate what we learn. So it's two things, right? It's to allow the learning to happen and then to be able to incorporate that learning back into the system.